short-term rentals, there is tens of millions of dollars that pour into this county as a result of that industry. Nelson County decades ago said we're going to be a tourist-based industry, okay? Way before I was born, and here we are today getting to see some of the fruits of what those ambitions are. We cannot just simply shut the hydrant off to what is taking care of a lot of our teachers. However, I will say this. I will look at you every day and say that a local Nelsonian should be making those dollars and cents before someone who's from out of town, out of state, and even in some cases out of country. All right? You all deserve to be making that revenue. You're locals who get the opportunity to change their lifestyle, to be able to afford that trip to the beach, and maybe it's mom staying home and being able to work at the cottage that's next door, and while the husband's working so she can take care of her kids. I think we'll use all the methods we think that are important or related to this in our zoning redefinition, which we will be getting done in this coming
I do
spring.
support the Airbnbs. They do bring in $2.1 million in tax revenue. However, we needed to change this from a by right to a special use permit, where the neighbors can have some sort of say of where these go and we're not overran by these. It's one thing if you, as a property owner, had an Airbnb next door to you where you lived on site, sort of like what Albemarle County adopted. I can get on board with something like that. But when you have people out of Richmond and Washington, D.C. that is coming to our town and purchasing these, and there is no housing available for our youth to enjoy where they grew up at, we have a problem with that.
There are some that are problems because of the management or oversight is non-existent, but there are many that are being run well. And most of these are short-term rentals on properties where the rental is a secondary residence and the primary residence is the owner who is there to oversee how that rental is used or abused in unfortunate cases. I'd be in favor of putting together a task force or committee made up of owners of short-term rentals, housing people, to look at the problem so that we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We're trying to improve the capability of providing housing for people who want to live here, and yet at the same time recognize that short-term rentals have a place in our economy in this county for the people who are coming to visit wineries, breweries, hike, whatever. They need a place to stay.
I call short-term rentals what they create as a cycle of depression. The county has a fairly low property tax rate, as I already said, less than surrounding counties. And homes that go on the market are purchased not as homes but as investments because they're already too expensive for middle-income families to afford. They're remodeled and flipped into short-term rentals and provide income. They don't provide housing. And the value of the investment increases exponentially. For example, we're seeing right now appraisals for this coming year running much higher and often between 50 and 100% increases in appraised value. That's going to translate to much higher property taxes unless the Board of Supervisors equalizes those tax rates to release the tax burden. But what that does is it means less revenue for the county, less ability to equitably fund rising costs of services because the landowners don't have to shoulder the increased tax burden because it's been equalized. It's much cheaper to invest in property as an investment than it is for housing. The good news is we can break the cycle. Short-term rentals should be limited to residents, they should be limited in number, and they should be non-transferable.
Short-term rentals reduce the amount of housing available for long-term residents, adding to the increased housing and rental prices. This does not apply when a resident offers a portion of their own home as a short-term rental, as that has no impact on long-term housing availability. As part of the ordinance update, we should differentiate between short-term rentals owned by county residents and property owned by entities from outside the county, putting Nelson County first with preferential terms.